So it's lesson 8. We're going to start working on our shopping cart today. So I've opened up my project. And I've got to see what's going on. The project doesn't know how to run the Profile IIS Express. I'm not sure what's wrong. So bear with me for a second, not quite sure what's going on here. I'm going to rebuild the project. Set to use IIS Express. Enabled SSL. This is not very encouraging. Sorry for the delay, folks. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. One of my other students had this problem yesterday. I may just have to go and find a solution. Okay, I'm just gonna pause. So I've updated my Visual Studio. I'm gonna see if I can get my IIS Express running. Just reloading my project here. I'll try and launch the server again. Okay, well, I didn't get an error right away, so I'm crossing my fingers. In the meantime, I'm going to go and connect to my database. And here's my .NET Duds database. Sorry, wrong database. Get me a game database. Which I don't think is the right one either. Okay, my site's finally loading. View. So I'm going to go to my app settings.json file. That's my and I'll connect to the database. Here's my video game database. And if we look at the list of tables here, pretty slow to connect to Azure today, unfortunately. I should probably move my database locally by this point. So I've got products and categories. So now I'll quickly create my cart model. So I'm going to right click on models. I'm going to add class called cart. Justin, are you sure that you added a new migration before you called update database? So I'm going to grab the code here from Blackboard. I'll dump it inside my model class and save. I'll build. I'll go to my package manager console. And I'm going to add a migration, create cart table. And now I'll run the command update database. Whoops, I know what I missed. Notice my migration is empty. So Justin, here's probably why. I missed one step. In our application DB context under data, we also want to now declare the carts with our public DB set of type cart. I missed this step. So we need to declare it here in our application DB context. Oops. So I'll just put this line in the chat, but you can see it on my screen as well. So our database connection file has to include this reference. So I've put that in the chat. So I'll add this migration as well. Create carts table 2. And now our migration isn't empty. Here was my original one. Notice the up method and down were empty, so nothing got built. Once we add this declaration to our application DB context, if we create a new migration, it will then script out our carts table. And now I can just run the command update database. So Justin, you didn't do anything wrong. I left out a step. So it tells me things succeeded. And now if I go back and refresh, now I've got my carts table. So make sure you add the DB set. Okay, great. I'm glad you got that problem, Justin, because that pointed out to me that I forgot a step. So thanks for letting me know. Very helpful. So again, in application DB context, you're adding in the public DB set of type cart, and then create a second migration and run your update database. Janelle, I'm not sure I understand your question exactly. Could you clarify, please? You mean you called it cart table, or what happens if you build the table yourself in SQL Server?
I mean, like, I want to say that if we write it as a cart table, create cart table instead of create carts table, would that be fine? Because it works for me.
That name is just a description. That's fine.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's look at where our site is at right now, now that we've got our table created and I've got my server running again. So when I click on my shop now, right now it loads the index view of our shop controller. So we built this the end of our last class. So we're selecting our list of categories. But when we click on them, right now this page is empty. So the first thing we want to do is write the correct browse method in our shop controller so we can display the list of products for the selected category. So I'm going to open up my shop controller. So we've got an index method, but we have no browse method. So we want to fix this. So this will be shop, browse. And when we're browsing, we're also going to pass in an ID, the ID of the category the user clicks on. So we'll create a new method called browse. And when we're browsing, we need to know which category the user clicked on. So we're going to set up a parameter, an integer parameter called ID. So in here, we want to get the products in the selected category. Load the browse page and pass it the list of products to display. So we want to query the database, fetch the list of products, but filter them for the category the user clicked on. If they clicked RPG, we want to show them all those products. So we'll create a variable called products, and we'll use our context, our database connection. And this time we're using our products DB set. And we want a where clause. So our category p.category ID is equal to the ID in our URL, our ID parameter here. So we're filtering, we're not getting all the products, we're only getting a subset. We also want to order by our product name and convert the result to a list. So this is kind of the equivalent of an SQL clause. We've got a where clause to filter which products we're finding, and we have an order by to sort the data. So then what would we need to do on line 35 to actually load the browse page and pass in the data that comes from our query? Pretty similar to what we did up on line 25 above. Right, on line 25, in the index method, we're querying the list of categories and passing it. Yep, you got it, Farouk. That's perfect. We want to return a view, and we want to pass it our list of products. So the code you need, courtesy of Farouk, is in the chat. Just put a semicolon at the end. So our code is pretty short here, pretty quick to query the database, fetch what we need, load the view, and pass the data in. Okay. Here's the entire method. You need it. And this ID, again, if we look here, when I click RPG, you'll notice that on the end of our URL, we've got a category ID. That's okay, we got an error. If I click a different category, so this number represents our category ID that we're referring to here in our ID parameter. So what's our next step now? Our method's pretty much working. What should we do next? Taking a look at what we get in our browser with this method. Yep, you got it, Liam. We want to build the view. Inside of views and shop, we want to build the view called browse. And we don't have to build this from scratch. We can use, well, let's go down here. So I'm going to go to views and shop. And I'm going to add a view. I'm going to pick a, let's see, do I want an empty view? Yeah, I'll make it an empty view. We'll just add the code ourselves here. And we'll call it browse. Because, Diana, we're inside the shop controller. And it's calling the method called browse, which exists inside that controller. So that is where it's looking for the browse view. See the path? Views, shop, browse. Because the request URL starts with shop and it calls the browse method. So we'll call our file browse.cshtml. You don't have to put the extension on. Visual Studio will automatically give it the extension. So you can just call it browse. So we're going to get a blank file. So the first thing we want to do up here on line 1 is declare our model. What kind of data is this page going to get from the controller? What should our model be here? Yep, you got it. And is it a single product or is it a list of products we want to show on this page? Right, you got it. Janelle and Liam, you got it. So in that case, we're going to use IEnumerable. We want to show all the products in the selected category. So our model is an IEnumerable of type product, because that's what's coming in from our controller, right? This is a list of products. That's what we're passing to the view. So our view needs this model declaration so it knows. We can add on a heading here. And now we can use a loop to display each of the products. In terms of the formatting, we're going to use the Bootstrap card view that we used on the previous page. So I'll just go back for a minute. So on our shop index, we've got this list of cards. We want to display the product kind of in the same list. So rather than writing all the HTML here, we can copy it. If we go to our shop index, we've got this section tag where we're looping through our categories and displaying a card for each one. I'm just going to copy that whole section. So this entire HTML from line 10 down in my shop index. I'm going to copy that. And I'm just going to paste it in here. But instead of showing products, instead of showing categories, we want to show products. So this will work. If I load this in my browser now, our page is going to work. So I've got IEnumerable at the top of type product. And I've just pasted all in all the code. Let's see what it looks like. We'll want to change some, make some changes. But now if I click on any category, I get one product in that category. So I've got this card view. So it's working. My links are wrong because the links go to the browse page. And we also want to show other things, right? So let me just go back here. Oops, shop. Click on a category. So what other information should we be showing in our list of products? What else do we want to include? Yeah, the price would be a good one. What else would you expect to see when we're shopping and you see a list of products? We've got the product name here. Yep. The image, an add to cart. Great ideas. Okay, let's start adding some of these things. So, first of all, maybe I want to make this a little bit bigger, the product name. So maybe I'll give this a class. We'll make it an H5 so that the product name is a little bit bigger. Just see how that looks. We're also going to have to change the links where these point to. Okay. So under here, let's maybe add an H6. And let's add our price. Now I've kept the variable C from our previous page. On the previous page, we were showing categories. On this one, it's representing products. It's probably not the best variable name. So maybe I'll change this. Oops. I'm going to change these variables to P. You can leave them as C as you like. And here I need to capitalize my P.price. Okay, so I've changed my variable instance from C to P. It's more descriptive. And we want to show the price underneath. Let's see how this looks. Okay, so here's our price. We also want to format it as currency. And then we can add the product image in next. So to format this as currency, we can use a Microsoft string format. We call string.format. We have to provide the currency format, which is 0:C. And then our second parameter is the value we want to format as currency. So take the price, pass that in as parameter 0 to Microsoft's currency format. So what does that look like? So now our prices are formatted. And then our next step, so now we've got the product name, we've got the price. We also want to show a thumbnail of the image, as Rebecca suggested. Yes, Liam, what's your question? If that's just in Visual Studio, see if the page actually loads in the browser. Sometimes that error is just deceiving, and there's not actually an error. So see if your page loads in the browser, it's fine. So let's add our image now. We'll add an IMG tag. Our source is going to be equal to img/product uploads at p.photo. And we'll set our alternate text as product image. Now this is going to show full-size versions of the image. So now when it reloads, we should get our product images here. Okay. Well, it kind of works, but it looks terrible, right? The image is massive. And in some cases, we don't have product images. So what do we want to do? Well, first of all, we definitely want to scale this down. So let's create a class here. We'll create a class called maybe thumb, and we can define that in our CSS. The other thing we can do is we should wrap this in an if statement. We could use a placeholder image, but for now, I'll just say if at p.photo is not equal to null. So let's only render an image tag if we've actually got an image in the database for the product. You can use it. If you want to use that tag, that's fine, Justin. I think it's going to be too big with that class, so I'm going to define my own. IMG thumbnail is a bootstrap class. If you want to try it, go ahead. I'm going to define my own. So I'm going to set class equal to thumb. And then I'll go to my style sheet, which is in www.root and CSS and site.css. Oh, right. Sorry. We do already have. Yes, you're right. I forgot, Justin. I thought that was a bootstrap class. We already defined an IMG thumbnail. So yes, we may as well use that one. Thank you. So let's see how that looks. Now, if we have time, I can upload a placeholder image, and we could always show the placeholder if there is no image attached to the game. So now we get an image or nothing. I'll just leave this for now. If we've got time for the placeholder, I'll include that later. So now, Diana recommended we need an add to cart button here under each one, which we do. What else would we need besides just an add to cart? I can think of one other thing. If we are going to add to cart, there's one other piece of information we might want to get from the customer. What would that be what would that be? If someone's going to add to cart, we want to know what product they want. Okay, we could display a description, yep. Right, okay, Stephen, that's what I was thinking of. We may want to give them a little quantity box and an add to cart. Gina, we will get to the billing. And Justin, we'll come back to the product descriptions after. So yes, good suggestions. So in here now, I'm going to add a small form. Yep, we will do that as well, Maria. We'll build a separate cart page. So after they add to cart, we're going to take the user to the cart page, show them what's in their cart, and there will be an option to remove. So absolutely, we're going to do that. We'll probably get to that next week. So in here, I'm going to set up a form inside each one of these Bootstrap cards. Our method will be post, and our action is going to be shop, add to cart. So we're going to put two things in our form. I guess technically three: a label, an input for quantity, and then an add to cart button. So we'll set up a field set. I will push all this to GitHub. So we're going to set up a quantity label. And then we'll add a numeric input. So our name will be quantity. And the ID will also be quantity. It's going to be required. You can't click add to cart if you leave the quantity input blank. We'll set up a minimum value of 1 so the user can't have 0 or negative quantity. And I'll set the max just to something really, really high. And I'm also going to set my type equal to number. The other thing I want to do is I can use this class. Well, I'll leave it for now. I'm going to have to reformat it in a minute. And then down below the field set, I'll add a button. That says add to cart. So here's my whole form. So each individual card will have its own form. So the user can add one at a time. I'll just have a quick look at it. I should fix my label here so it says quantity. How does this look in the browser now? I think I'm going to have to make one more kind of cosmetic adjustment to it. So now we get quantity buttons. I can't go below 1, which is good. These quantity boxes are really wide. I'm going to shrink them. I can use that same IMG thumbnail class to shrink down the width of this input to 75 pixels. So in my input, I'll add class equals IMG thumbnail. It's optional. I don't have to do this, but I think it will look better. So I've applied that same class. So this should make our quantity boxes narrower. They don't really need to be this wide. I probably should override the add to cart button color, the primary button color as well. So now it's better. I'll leave the button color for now, but I may want to upgrade it. That blue doesn't look very good with the yellow-green theme that we've got. Maybe I'll want to use the navy from Emily's logo and change my add to cart button colors for now. Okay, so this is a start. This page is starting to look like a kind of like a proper e-commerce page. I can go and shop. I can see my product categories. And I've got a form. If I click add to cart, my HTML5 validation runs. So our next step is going to be the add to cart process. Okay, so we're making progress. It's about 5 to 12. I think this is a good place for us to take a break. I'm going to push everything up to GitHub. Are there any questions about what we've done so far before we take a break? Lesson 8.1. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break here. Get up, stretch your legs, get coffee, water, food, whatever you need. We'll come back at 12:05.